I appreciate everybody coming out. I'm Eric Boyle, building principal here at Stilwell. We're going to try to stay within our time frame for once. We seem to run long, so I'm going to try to be quick and to the point. That way Mr. Johnson can be long-winded. Just joking. We do appreciate everybody being here. I believe everybody now has a course selection sheet. Mr. Johnson was in science classes the last few days, so hopefully you have that with you. You don't have to have it with you, but your child should have it with them at home if you don't have it. So here are the goals for tonight. We want you to understand registration process, have an understanding of the courses that are available in 8th grade year. Talk about electives. We'll give a little overview of advanced courses. And for those who want to stick around for a little overview of New Tech, we'll do that as well. Ms. G will talk about extracurricular activities because that's something new as we get into 8th grade. We start having athletics and a few other opportunities after school. And then we'll talk a little bit about how we can partner to hopefully make 8th grade a successful year. So, like I said, I'm Eric Boyle, building principal. Miss G is right here. Sarah Cooper, one of our counselors, and Mr. Johnson, our other counselor. The four of us will give you everything you need to know about next year, and then you'll leave here, and in about 2 months you'll be like, what were they saying? And then you contact us, and we'll give you any information maybe that slipped your mind from now until then. So like I was saying, Mr. Johnson was in science classes the last few days, going over this similar presentation of what courses are available, what are the requirements they got to have, and just so they have a pretty good overview of electives available to them. You have it now or it's at home. They're due back to us. Or on the 31st, we shared Tiger Time. So I have an 8th grade Tiger Time currently. Mr. Wong is just down the hall from me, so he brought his students down to my Tiger Time. And my students shared a little bit more in depth about what the 8th grade electives were all about, what to expect with art, tech ed, GTT, drama, so on and so forth. So kids got an overview from their peers about what the electives are that are available to them. Forms are due to us February 17th. So you've got a little bit of time to sit down and talk with your child about what they hope to take next year and then get it returned to us. Advanced courses. And what I would say about advanced courses is, for the most part, the curriculum is very similar. The standards are the same. Our advanced classes are going to go more depth at a much quicker rate and probably much more rigorous. What I want to highlight tonight in regards to advanced classes is we did do it differently than in years past. That sheet was stapled to the course selection form. And I'm just going to highlight the fact that normally we would be taking 8th grade assessment scores and using those along with GPA and current grade in either the class they're in to get into the advanced placement for 8th grade. But this year we don't have assessment scores because we haven't taken them yet. We don't take them till the end of March and beginning of April. So we'll be using 7th grade assessment score. We'll also be using 7th grade cut score plus GPA plus current grade, plus if we feel there are other data we need to pull in, we'll pull in a variety of other sources and talk to teachers to try to make sure we get everybody in the right place they need to be successful moving into 8th grade. It's not ideal. We just, with our assessment scores moving from fall to spring and being so far late in the spring, this is the best we have available to us right now. So for language arts, you see you got to have a 278 in reading and a 302 in written expression, plus GPA, plus grade. Any questions on, yes?
So, are you looking at 6th grade assessment scores?
So, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's That might be off. That's from last year, I think.
Yeah, I took it from Mr. Christensen. You're right. Thank you for correcting me. It'll be 6th grade because 8th grade will be using 7th grade. So we'll be using 6th grade cut scores and 6th grade assessments.
So
So,
the 2015 assessments.
yep.
Yeah. The scores on the back of that sheet will be correct. The scores that they list on there are accurate for what we're looking at.
So to clarify, we're using, since we don't have them this year, we'll be using 2015, and it'll be the cut score and their assessment score.
Do you want
So,
to tell people where they can find that?
yep, it'll be in, you can go to Infinite Campus, and you'll be able to pull up their assessment scores, and it'll have all previous assessment scores available. If you have questions, you can contact me or any of the other 3 administrators or counselors. Science would be the same. We'll use 6th grade assessment score, GPA, and their grade. Same for social studies, and this one does reading, social studies for their cut scores, and then math is the only one that's unique because it depends upon what they're in currently. So if they're in pre-algebra right now, they'll go into algebra. If they're in 7th grade math, they'll go into pre-algebra. And if they're in integrated, they'll go into integrated. So those are already, for the most part, predetermined given the course they're currently taking as a 7th grader. Now, algebra, yes?
Can you, I've never heard of cut scores. What does that mean?
So, since this is wrong, but I'll use it as an example. When you look up here and it says 7th grade Iowa assessment national standard score of 283. So in years past, in order to get into advanced placement, we would have taken the fall assessment score. Let's say you scored a 290 in social studies and a 301 in reading. The cut scores, you're above them both. So those are 2 criteria that we use to get in advanced placement, plus GPA, plus your current grade in that class. And so if you had, yes?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're all right.
I'm ready for another one.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, are all the advanced courses traditional classes, or are there advanced NTN?
There's both.
Okay.
There's both.
And then I have one other question. What math class comes after Algebra C?
So after Algebra C goes geometry. So I'll come back to that in a second. So when I say cut scores, if you look at your, when you go home tonight or if you have it with you and it has the advanced placement sheet with you, it'll tell you what those cut scores are in regards to getting into advanced placement.
You just mean cut by your cutoff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and what I'll be flat honest with you, this is one of the things when I say we, me and Mr. Christensen are really working on, is we struggle with saying that just an assessment score should be one of our main criteria for getting in advanced placement, because on a given day may not be your best day, and it does, that's one snippet of who you are as a student. So we're working on trying to add to what we see for data points. So we're trying to open doors and give kids as many opportunities to get into more challenging coursework if they so choose. Does that answer your question? Okay. So to get to math, one thing I do want to point out about algebra is it's a accredited class. So in years past, up until last year, if you took algebra, you got to December and decided, I just want to take this as an 8th grade class, I don't want high school credit, you had that option of opting out. You no longer have that, so if you're taking algebra, you will start your high school transcript next year as an 8th grade. And so the question of what do you take after Algebra C is geometry, and we're in the process right now, I'll be honest with you, on deciding where that's at. For the last few years, Stilwell students have traveled to Indian Hills, and we have a teacher over there teaching geometry, but that may be changing. Our numbers are, we have far more students who will be signing up for geometry next year than Indian Hills. They only have 2. So we're looking at options of keeping it here and having 2 students transition to us. Any other questions? Yes?
What does algebra C translate to, like algebra 1 and 2?
It's algebra 1. Yep. So then you go into geometry, and then algebra 2 trig, which is at Valley. All right, so Mr. Johnson's going to take you through our electives.
All right, so this is just a snapshot of the form that you probably have in front of you or that your student has brought home. I was just talking to the 3 or the 4 of us here. This will be the 16th time I've talked about this in the last 3 or 4 days because, as Mr. Boyle said, I went through all of the science classes for all 3 teams. So there's 5 classes on each team, so 15 of them, and so I've done it a few times. But the main purpose of why I wanted to do it that way, or why we've chosen to do it that way, is because I wanted the kids to have an opportunity to really ask questions and really get an idea of how this all works, because it is quite a bit different than what 7th grade is, in that there's a few more choices with it. And a big thing is that you have some electives, that in 8th grade that now meet every day rather than every other day. Now, in 7th grade, all of the electives that they take are every other day classes. They're music classes. They have the option of Spanish to meet every other day. If they're in support classes, they meet every other day. Now, those same classes are offered in 8th grade, but a few changes are going to happen, especially with the Spanish, as far as how often it meets. And that affects how we fill out this form here. So that was a big part of our discussion. So if you look at line 5, a big thing I told the students, if they are in any support classes, and that includes ELP, math resource, reading resource, learning lab, and special ed classes, they were written into the form already. So if you got the form home and you saw that written in there, that was written by us in there, just so that they know, okay, these are what they're in now. Now, I'm not, things could happen where they're not in those classes next year, but we just want to make sure that they know that, all right, that's in there now, and if you want to add electives, just realize that's in there so they don't add too many electives, and then we have to say, oh, you gotta back off because you have these other classes that you're taking. But we put those in there, and I think when we put them in there, we just put them in for first semester. My intern helped out with that. He just put them in for first semester. If you can, put them in for second semester too, because that way you get a full glimpse of it. He just wrote them in there, that first one, which I just wanted to mainly have them see it. But it's good to put it in for both semesters, unless there's a plan to possibly change later on. But so line 5, if they didn't have anything written in there, ultimately they had 2 choices of what they could put in there. They could either put in a music class, so chorus, band, or orchestra, which Ms. Cooper will talk about here in a little bit, or they can put in a study hall. And that's really the only options that we have, unless they're in one of those support classes. Because that's in 8th grade, those are the only classes that meet every other day. And so, I had students fill out, okay, if you're in if you're in chorus or band or orchestra, you can put it in line 5 there. If not, then you put it in line, you put in the study hall. Now, immediately the kids ask, well, what if I'm in band and chorus, or band, chorus, and orchestra? What do I do then? Well, what I had them do was they put one of the musics in line 5, and then if they want to do another music, that would have to go down to line 6. So if they have chorus in line 5, they put band down in line 6, and then they'd either alternate that with a study hall or with if they're in orchestra. But ultimately, they only have a few options there for those classes. So the every other day classes aren't as common in 8th grade as they are in 7th grade. And so we're kind of moving on to more full-term classes and more what we call academic electives for them to pick, which are meeting every day and count as full classes. So that leads us to, our curriculum here. As Mr. Boyle talked about, we have the advanced options for all those different subject areas there. but they're still going to be taking them either advanced or regular for all those. So you'll see that on your registration form that there's already really 4.5 slots that are filled out with math, language arts, social studies, and English. Now it doesn't mean that they're going to go in that necessarily that order with their schedule, but we want them to know, okay, those are in those spots. And then physical education meets every other day, which is where we saw in line 5 where they can do an alternating class with that. So just want to make sure most of their schedule again is kind of set for them, but again they're going to have a little bit more option as far as electives for this coming year. Okay, so here are our choices for electives, and you'll see this at the bottom of your sheet there, of your green packet. You'll see the list of all the options that they have. And they're listed up there. We're going to go through each of these in pretty good detail here. But if you have any questions or if you're wondering any more about what's involved there, in that packet there's a description of each of these classes in there. So if you're kind of wondering, if you leave this meeting and you're like, well, I can't remember what they said about art or about drama, look in the packet, and there's a description of each of those classes in there. So I'll just kind of briefly cover them. And like Mr. Boyle said, I think that when the 8th graders met with the 7th graders, they probably told them a lot more than what I could tell them when I met with them, because they're in the class, they're experiencing it, and here I'm kind of giving them the basics. So they knew a lot of the stuff already about what to kind of expect, how the class is set up and stuff like that. So these are our electives. I'll kind of go through and talk about kind of what's all involved with each of these. I'm going to start with world language, and I had a long discussion with the 7th graders about this, because there's some key things you really want to know about this if your child's deciding to do Spanish, which is our one world language class. Okay, and it's called Spanish 1 if you notice in the handout there. And I'd ask them, a lot of you have been taking Spanish for through elementary, and you took it this year, so why is it called Spanish 1? Well, I told them that the reason why it's called Spanish 1 is because it's the first year of really high school Spanish. All right, so Spanish 1 is a high school course that we offer at 8th grade to kind of give them a year head start. Okay, because if they take Spanish 1 in 8th grade, when they get into 9th grade, they can take Spanish 2, and Spanish 3 sophomore year, and then Spanish 4 their junior year, and then they're done if they're going for 4 years. And they do have the opportunity of doing AP Spanish their senior year if they want to. But we offer that opportunity mainly for that purpose, to accelerate it a little bit. We talked a lot about too, why do students take Spanish? The reality is Spanish is not required, or I should say world language is not required to graduate from Valley. And a lot of kids were kind of surprised by that. They're like, you don't need to graduate? But then I asked them, but why do a lot of students take it? And the key answer was because of college, obviously. And so we talked about what colleges are looking for with world language. That two years will get you into a college, but 4 years will allow you not to have to take it once you get to college. And I told them, as far as Spanish this next year, and there's some key things. There's 3 things that I really want them to keep in mind. Number 1, and this is probably the biggest one, is how are they doing in English right now? If they are getting an A or B in English, they'll probably be all right to take Spanish. Okay, but if they're at a C or lower in English, I'm going to probably be talking with them a little bit. I may be talking with you too about taking Spanish, because if they're having struggles in English, they're having troubles in their language arts class, going on to a foreign language, they're going to have probably some struggles there. And like I said, this is a high school level course. It's pretty fast paced, and it's they will get homework. And the tests are going to be pretty rigorous. But the key thing is that that we want them to be successful with. They don't have to take Spanish in 8th grade. It's an opportunity to excel. And that leads us on to number 2. If you're taking Spanish in 8th grade, if you're doing it because of the college aspects of it, if you want to take Spanish in 8th grade, make sure that that's going to be your language that you're going to be taking the next couple of years. Because if you take Spanish next year as an 8th grader and then decide to do French or German or Latin or Chinese the following year, the year of Spanish will not count for anything. Because it doesn't show up on the transcript. It doesn't get high school credit. But people ask, well, how do they know that the kids took it? Well, because when a college will get a transcript and they see Spanish 2 on 9th grade, they will assume, okay, they must have taken Spanish 1 in 8th grade. And so it doesn't show up on a transcript, but it allows for that acceleration. So if they take Spanish 1 next year and then decide to take French or something else their freshman year, really this year of Spanish doesn't count for anything as far as that acceleration. Now, if they're really interested in Spanish and want to take that year, great. I mean, I'm not going to tell them they can't take it. I don't want to discourage them based on that, but make sure that that's the language that they want to do. So there's two things: that they get an A or B in English, that that Spanish is their language of choice, and then number 4 is a big one, that they are wanting to do 4 years of Spanish. Because, like I said, 2 years will get you into college. But I want you to imagine this: if you take Spanish your 8th grade year and Spanish your freshman year, and you say you're good, okay, I got my 2 years done. They go to college, they've had a 3-year gap of language there, and then they say, oh, you've got another year of Spanish, and you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't taken Spanish since my 9th grade year. So, make sure that they're committed to wanting to take probably 4 years of it, which most of our students that are taking Spanish are in that boat. They're good language students. They're good, or they want Spanish as their language, and they're committed to do those 4 years. Now, those are discussions to have with your student, but just something to keep in mind, because it is a rigorous course, and it's one that you really want to keep in mind. And it is one. If I go back here, it's one that when you fill out your form, it's going to go on both lines. It's going to go on, like if you put it on line 6, it's going to go on first semester and second semester because it's a full year course. So it can't just be on one semester. It can't go alternating PE either because it's every day. So it's either got to be line 6 all the way across or line 7 all the way across. And that's a big thing to remember. And the kids talked a lot about that. Yeah?
If you were to skip that and do 2 years and you need to take 2 years of college, when you start that first year in college, I would assume, and the question is for you, is if you're learning Spanish in college, don't they start at the beginning?
In college?
Yeah.
Well,
Don't they act like you don't know how to speak
I took it in college myself, and I was one of those that took my freshman and sophomore year, and it was killer for me.
Okay.
I mean, and plus, another thing to think about too with it is, you have to pay for those credits too. And so I told the kids, if you're committed to wanting to do a 4-year school, which is looking at those, at taking that foreign language, try and get those 4 years in here, because not only do you not have to take it, but it also gives you, it costs, it's going to allow you not to take that class credit-wise, so you're not going to have to pay for those credits. And also, you got a little bit more opportunity, once you get there to pick other classes. And so I learned the hard way on that myself, but it's really up to you guys. And that, if you are only going to do 2 years, and I think the high school would recommend too that you wait till later on, your sophomore or junior or senior, starting your sophomore or junior year, because that'll lessen the gap there. But we do offer that option, and it's a great option for kids to do that if they're wanting to get done with Spanish a little early, give them more option their senior year, or if they want to do that AP class that senior year. So it's a really good option there, but something you really want to talk about. Yeah.
Do you have a listing of what foreign languages are offered in high school?
Yeah.
To help the decision-making process?
Yeah, so we offer, there's 5 foreign languages or world languages that are offered at Valley.
For 4 years?
Yep, 4 years. Yep, they're all 4 years. It's Latin, French, German, and Mandarin Chinese, and then Spanish. They used to have Japanese, but they're phasing that out. So the students that are in 8th, or they're going to be in 8th grade now, won't have that option. So those are the options, and they can start that at Valley Southwood, right? All those languages. So and that's the other thing. I mean, if they're wanting to do that other language, Valley South, they can still get those 4 years if they start at Valley Southwoods. So Spanish is the one option that we have for that.
Great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Spanish used to show up on the high school transcript. When did they change that recently, or is it?
It's been different since I've been here. So I've been here for 5 years, and I think it changed right before I got here. The reason why they changed it, from what I heard, is that since it's not taught in a high school building, they can't consider it a high school credit. Now, this is based on, from what I've heard, the state of Iowa. This is a Department of Ed decision on this. And so that's what the change was. But you are correct, they did used to give credit for it. I think 5 or 6 years ago was when they cut it off. And so, again, they just decided on that it's not offered at a high school building. And that's just with world languages. Obviously, math is different because you can get the credit there, but that's a different. If I'm off on that, please let me know. But I think that's what I had heard at that time. So, other questions? Okay. Yeah, Spanish was one that we talked about a lot in the classroom with the students, just because I want to make sure that they understand, what the expectations are and what what the class involved, because it's a big step going on to a high school level course in 8th grade. But we have a lot of students that are definitely ready for that and are accept the challenge. And there's a lot of students that take all advanced classes and Spanish and do well. It's just it's about managing time and be able to stay on top of everything. So I'm going to go through some of the other academic electives. The rest of them that I'm going to talk about are only going to be 1 semester courses. So I'm going to go back real quick to our sheet. So any ones I talk about after Spanish, you would put them in line 6 or line 7, and they'd only go in 1st semester or 2nd semester. Not in both. You can only take them 1 semester. So we start with art. So art, it's really an expansion of what they did in 7th grade. They get a lot more opportunity to start exploring the drawing, the painting, the ceramics. They also have a photographic element of it. So this is a semester-long course. In 7th grade, they had a quarter of it. They only had 1 quarter, so they only had a pretty small experience of art. But they get to do some pretty neat projects within this. You'll see displays around the school of a lot of things that our students do, and it's unbelievable the talent that we have here at Stilwell with the art aspect of it. So students are really involved in art. It's a great opportunity to start getting them going with what the opportunities are once they get up into high school, because they can start looking at drawing, 2D art, 3D art with the sculpting, and then also can get into photography and stuff like that. So great option for that. The next class is communications media. This is offered by our drama teacher, and they are their main focus here is looking at films, newspapers, the media in general. They also look at social media. A great thing about this is they actually are involved in creating the school newspaper, and which comes out once every couple months or so. And so they go around interviewing teachers, interviewing students, take pictures around the school. They're also involved right now in creating our yearbook. So they got some pretty neat responsibilities that they're involved with. If your student is kind of somebody that might be interested in something with media down the road, it's a great class to kind of get them involved with that. Dramas, so drama's the other end of that. We have a lot of drama classes throughout the day, and they're just it's a great class. We kind of consider it a precursor to a speech class, because they're getting used to getting up in front of people, talking and doing different things. But they also are doing a lot of the art aspects of it with the theater. They do a lip sync production here, which is a very popular thing. Parents will come in to watch it. All the student, a lot of the student body will watch it, and it's just it's a great opportunity for students to kind of be themselves and let themselves go a little bit. But there's a serious aspect of it too of getting them comfortable in front of talking in front of people, and breaking some of those barriers that fears and stuff like that they have. And it's a good class to kind of get to know people as well, because they're doing a lot of interacting, doing a lot of just stuff back and forth to get to know each other. Sewing is part of our Family and Consumer Science department, and in 7th grade they have it's only 9 weeks as the Family and Consumer Science, and they split up 4.5 weeks with sewing and 4.5 weeks with foods. Once they get into 8th grade, they can take a full semester of sewing, and it's pretty, again, this is kind of like art. They make some pretty neat stuff, and this will be displayed a lot of times out in our display case. And pretty neat the stuff that they make, and it's pretty laid back class, usually at the end of the day. So it's kind of a good kind of stress reliever for a lot of kids to just make something and not have to worry about necessarily homework or anything like that. Just kind of get working with their hands and doing stuff, and they usually are listening to some music and do some really neat stuff in there. And I always tell, not just for the girls, all right, it's for the boys too. It's a great skill to know, and hopefully we can get some people and get a lot of kids involved with it. We've had a lot of kids involved with it the last couple of years. Foods, probably our most popular elective. And I told the kids, when I talked with them, and you can probably see why, because they get to bake some good stuff. But when I talked with them, I had the kids raise their hands if they were interested in taking foods, and we saw that about half of the class usually rose their hand. But I told them there's only 148 slots available in foods, based on how the number of classes that we have, because our foods teacher teaches 7th grade in the morning. And so 148 slots, we usually get about 200 kids that put this on their registration form. Now I told them that if they want to take this course, they need to make sure they put it on line 6 or line 7 of that sheet. If they put it as an alternate elective, they will not get it. And usually, just to let you know how it usually works, if we have the right number, then everybody will get in. But if we don't have the right number, then what we'll do, if it's a little high, I'll have to do a lottery. Now what happened last year, I'll just let you know, what happened last year was I had to do a lottery, and I think I had about 15 kids that didn't get in. But after we ran the schedules, there was a lot of kids, because of being in advanced classes, being in music, they couldn't take foods. I should say a lot of kids, but there was a handful of kids that couldn't take foods. And so most of the kids that signed up ended up getting in. So I just really strongly encourage sign up. There's a chance they might not get in, but that's why it's important to add that alternate elective at the bottom to make sure that if they don't get in, there's something else they might want to take. Our technology education department, one of the classes changed its name. It's the class is called Engineering Technology. It used to be called Exploring Technology, but now it's called Engineering Technology. It's pretty much the same premise as far as what they do. It's our woodworking class. They're working in the shop, building things. So I told the kids that if that's the class you're kind of looking for, you'll want to put down Engineering Technology. And they work with woods, do some metal work, a little bit with plastic. They do a few other projects as well. But the main part of it is they're working with those hand tools, power tools, and other equipment. Great for those hands-on learners and stuff like that. The other class in the technology education part is our Gateway to Technology. And this is a class that's funded by engineering grant money. And so this is a strong design class, computer design class. They do a lot of robotics aspects. They use some different software to create designs and images on the computer. Do some really neat stuff. They look at real-world objects and how they work, like with traffic lights, toll booths, robotic arms. So it's just a great, again, intro to engineering. And I can tell you, Valley has a great engineering program up there. And this is a great thing to kind of get them kind of looking at what's involved there, kind of get them interested. And if your student's been involved in Hyperstream, which meets on Wednesdays, this is a great opportunity for them to really continue that stuff. All right, I believe that is it for me, so I'll hand it over to Ms. Cooper.
All right, so I'm Mrs. Cooper, I'm the other counselor here. And so we just have a few more electives that students can take. These are the ones that only meet every other day. And so these are the ones that you would put on line 5 to alternate with PE, or to possibly, if you needed to add, if they were going to do another one, to kind of split that line 6 in half. Oh, I told you I messed it up. Okay, so the first one is a vocal music, this would be chorus. So it meets, again, like we said, every other day. This is the class, so this would be in their schedule. It also, or it does not take into consideration that if they wanted to do show choir or men's and women's chorus, those are all additional, but they do have to be in the chorus class to also take show choir or men's or women's chorus. So that I know that's one that this year I had a couple questions about. So they do have to be in the class in their schedule as well. Show choir and men's and women's chorus typically meet before school, so something else to consider with scheduling and all that. And then there are some evening performance requirements that do go into their grade. That would be an expectation. Okay, we also have orchestra. Orchestra is going to be very similar to what it was in 7th grade. If your child is in orchestra, again, it's an every other day elective, and also has those evening performance requirements that go into the grade. And I'm basically just gonna repeat myself for band. Band is a little different, we tried some new things out with band this year with having, they have the whole group lessons, and then they also get pulled for small group or individual lessons. This year we did it where we made it work as best as we could in the schedule so that the types of instruments were all pulled at the same time to do their lessons. So if your child is in band, do know that on their schedule they'll have their big lessons every other day, and then there is going to be a time when they get pulled at another time of the day to do a short individual or small group lesson. Again, there is some evening, some weekend commitments, requires practice obviously outside of the day, and just like all of these musical electives, it is a lifelong skill that they would learn to use, just like all of our other electives. Yes?
So next year we'll, like right now, 7th grade band meets before school on Friday mornings. Will that be?
That is one of those questions that the directors and I will sit down and see how this experiment went.
Okay.
If they feel we're getting the best bang for our buck in regards to growth and performance. So Mr. Turner wanted to try this, so we'll meet here right after break and start looking at if it works or if it doesn't.
I don't think this microphone's working.
How's-
We're just pretending.
Coming up.
Oh, wait, there. There, do.
Why I had it when we play this.
My phone. Do you have a question?
Well, when you said for the band, it'll be pulled out when? During the day?
Yeah, it is during the day. So,
Currently, right now, lessons are depending upon instrument, and it's every other day, and then they do a large group for 7th grade before school. In years past, lessons they were pulled out of classes to do lessons, and then had a whole group every other day. And the directors wanted to try something different, where the lessons were by instrument, and they had more time with them in a small group. And then do large group a little bit more improvement than they had in the past. So this was our first year of trying it. I take emails and feedback if you got it in regards to how you think you're doing it. I know one of the things they were trying to do was stop pulling kids from classes, where having it built into their schedule was much easier than saying, okay, don't forget you got lessons this week, and then having to come. They don't come. Sometimes they don't. If their schedule doesn't allow, and we'll talk about enough. If their schedule doesn't allow, when they're getting pulled from science, math, English, whatever. Fortunate enough, it was maybe sometimes you got pulled out of study hall or PE or something else, but this year we're trying to avoid that kind of thing. Next year we haven't made any decisions at this time.
and I know that's the case with orchestra too. Like just this week, I was working with a student and asked that, for her to come see me 7th hour, and she said, well, first I have my small group orchestra lesson. So then she had that like the first 15, 20 minutes of the time. All right, and then these are the classes, these support classes, I did fix that, right? These support classes if your student is in them right now for 7th grade, they're already written, they should already be written on the registration form. So these are classes that meet every other day, and so you would see them in that line 5, possibly also in line 6. So we have our English language learners, extended learning ELP, we have learning lab, and then math resource, reading resource, and special education. And all of these classes are met by assessment requirements and other criteria that the students are chosen by the teachers and other administration and other staff members making those decisions. So these aren't ones like electives that the kids can sign up for on their own. All right, and then the last thing I'm talking about is after the bell. So after the bell is offered for all 7th and 8th grades. So this is something that your child is or can be involved in right now. Basically, it's an after-school study hall. Not every student has a study hall during the day, and some students, we all know, have a hard time doing their homework at home. So we offer after the bell. We have teachers that are on staff that facilitate after the bell, and it is every day from the end of the school day, 2:35 until 4 o'clock. And on, well, I'll get into that in a second, but they don't have to stay till 4 o'clock. They can, stay for however long they need to finish. We do let the students have access to their phones if they need to contact anybody about a ride home or whatnot. But it's just a good opportunity for students to take advantage of, knowing that there's teachers there that can help them out. Most of the teachers are here until about 3:15, so if they're here at school after the bell doing homework, have a question, they can usually try and catch their teacher before they leave. And like I said, aren't obligated to stay till 4. It's not something you have to sign up and come to every day. It can be, they have a little orientation that they do the first day that the student comes, and they sign a contract with the teacher that's there in charge. They do offer a snack to the kids at the beginning of after the bell. Did you have a question?
I just wanted to add a comment that we use after the bell, and it's a great resource, and so I hope it continues.
It will.
We highly, highly, highly encourage students to go to after the
I've
bell.
heard a lot of good things about it, and so that's why we used it, and so it's definitely a great resource.
Awesome, thanks. This will kind of segue into what Mrs. Getch was talking about, but any student who does sports and has practice after school, on Wednesdays, we dismiss at 1:50, and the teams don't start their practices until later. So all athletes who practice after school on Wednesdays will go to after the bell until 3:15, right? And then, so on Wednesdays, for those athletes that have practices after school, they will be after the bell. Any other questions? Yeah?
Do you have to register, sign up for that?
Nope, they just can show up the first day that they decide to go. The teachers that are there that night, they just kind of sit down with them. It can be one-on-one, or it can be towards the beginning of the year if there's a bigger group. And they just kind of go through their expectations and just like a little quick few-minute orientation.
Where do they meet?
This year, it used to be in the cafeteria. This year we changed it, and they met upstairs in the humanities room just because they're bigger to provide Wednesdays in the cafeteria since there's so many kids. Any other questions? Your turn.
Okay, this is going to be tricky. I talk with my hands and I have props, so we're going to see how this goes with the
We got a
mic.
stand for you if you want it.
I think I'm good. I'll give it a shot. Okay, so extracurricular activities. This is an exciting time for 8th graders. We have lots of activities for your son or your daughter to be involved in. And research shows when students are connected to activities in school, they are more successful. So I'm just going to briefly go through these. Interscholastic athletics, those are sports programs. It's the first time that they'll compete in interscholastic sports in West Des Moines area and around the metro area. We have intramurals. We offer play in the fall and mimes in the spring. And then we have lots of different clubs that some are established already. Hiker Stream is one that goes year from year. Yes Club is another one that is offered every year. But students also have that opportunity. They have 5 members. They can find a teacher advisor. They can start, I lost it. Can you guys hear me? They can start their own club. And then those clubs can decide what night they want to meet. They meet after school usually once a week. And then we have community service, eye care. So, sports sign up. There's some specific things that you have to follow with this, okay? Here are my props. Physical form, okay? And we'll be sending you a letter in April that'll talk all about what you need to do as far as forms are concerned. You need to have a physical form on file, an updated physical. So if you have a physical in, say, September, it'll be good through the following October. So they're usually good for 13 months. What we recommend, get your appointment early in the summer. Because what we found is kids who wait till like July and August, it's hard to get in Football, volleyball, cross-country start right when we start up school, and if they don't have the form in, they can't practice or participate. So that's one thing you just want to make a note of, and that letter that we send you certainly tells you that. On the physical form, this is where a lot of parents forget. It looks like the doctor should take care of all this. So it's a lot of information on the front, name, address. Then the doctors take care of it, they take care of the back. But on the bottom is where parents need to sign. It's an emergency release, and so that needs to be your signature. So make sure when you get that physical form, you take that bottom back page and you put your signature on that. The other thing we're going to ask you for is concussion form, insurance form, parent signature to participate, and the student signature code of conduct. They've read that and they're going to abide by that. It's all on one sheet. It seems like, oh my gosh, that's a lot I've got to do. It's all here. So there's spots for parents to sign, but there's also a couple spots where it's a parent and a student sign together. So you need to make sure that this is in along with this before they can even start to practice. So fall sports. We start school off in August and we'll start practice right away with football, volleyball, and cross country. There'll be some spring meetings where coaches will get an idea of who's going to be coming out for these sports, just some informational type meetings. But then during registration, we'll actually have sign-up sheets as well. And so then the coaches will be in contact, practices will be set, and they usually, I think football is starting August 21st, and so that'll be about when cross country and when volleyball will be starting as well. Our winter sports, so when we're done with our fall sports, we move right into girls basketball and wrestling, and then after they're done, we move into boys basketball. Boys basketball typically starts right after we come back from our winter break. Spring sports are girls track and boys track. We have a no-cut policy. Everyone participates in our athletic programs. What we're looking at is to learn participation and to learn skill building. And we want kids to take a chance on something. They may not look like a hurdler, they might not look like a wrestler, but they never know unless they try. And this is a really safe learning environment for them to participate, have friends, make friends, and have a great experience. Other ways to get involved in our building, we have student government. We have a lot of students, I'll get to your question in a second. We have a lot of students who, each social studies class will have a member who will represent student council. So we end up with about 25 students who are on student council. Our iCare volunteers, iCare happens during the school day. It happens on Mondays and Thursdays during study hall. So if you have a study hall anytime during 2nd to 7th hour, you can sign up for iCare. You can do it both days, or you can do it one day. So today I just happened to check with some of the iCare kids that are coming back in the building. What did you guys do today? We walked dogs. So they work with the vet clinic. Some other things that they do, they help our booster pack. They put our food packs together for each week for students. They work at the different schools. They volunteer there. They work in human services. They go to a manor care and do some volunteer work there. And then they also work in the preschools. So it's a great experience. And it really starts on thinking about silver cord as we move forward. Because once you're 8th grader next year, first day of summer vacation, they can start earning those hours for silver cord. Put a plug in for you there, Mrs. Bonus. And then intramurals. We have a great intramural program. Our students volunteer or participate in wiffle ball, baseball, basketball. We're going to do some cross country next year. Anything that the kids decide they want to do, Mr. Swisher's, sort of not everything, but most things, he's up for it. They're going to do some Frisbee this spring. So he meets with intramurals twice a week after school. In the morning, he runs a sweat program 3 days a week. Sweat is from 6 to 7 every morning. Kids come in the gym, they play dodgeball, they play basketball, they play pickleball. So how many kids are there sort of determines what activity they're going to do. But for some kids, being active before school is a great way for them to focus and start their day.